This video demonstrates our double seat valve Delta DA3 Plus maintenance. First, let's go through the valve components. The components of the valve are: control unit, available as an option; the seat lift actuator for the lower valve shaft; the pneumatic actuator for opening the valve as well as lifting the upper valve shaft; the spring cylinder; the valve housing with lower and upper valve shaft; the leakage drain pipe. The lower valve shaft, the seat ring, and upper valve shaft. Now we're going to show you the different positions of the Delta DA3 Plus valve. Here you see the valve with lifted upper valve shaft during CIP. Pay attention to the released upper seat seal, which will be overflown by CIP media during CIP. This time, we will show lifting of the lower valve shaft. You can see the released lower shaft seal, which will be overflown by CIP media during CIP. The situation is the same about the lower seat seal. CIP media can overflow the released seat seal now. Before we show you the replacement of the wearing parts, let's go through the various tools that are required to achieve the maintenance operation first. 1 Allen key 4 mm, 1 spanner 13 mm, 2 spanners 17 mm, 2 spanners 24 mm, 1 torque spanner and 1 each 17 mm and 24 mm socket, 1 tool to assemble and disassemble the lower shaft seal, 1 tool to disassemble the seat seal, 1 tool to assemble the middle seal. You also need grease for the elastomer seals. APV's recommended grease does come with the seal kit. In addition, you need the suitable seal kit recommended in the spare part list, which is attached to the operating manual. A recommendation from our expert. Please have 3 approximately 20 mm long M8 hexagonal screws ready. We'll soon show you why. Let's remove the valve from the process line. For safety reasons, you have to ensure that the process line is at 0 pressure. If possible, isolate the valve in the process line. For example, the tank outlet line. Remove the proximity switches. Mark the lower one to ensure that it is put back in the correct location later. If the valve is equipped with an optional control unit, it has to be removed. To do so, please turn the locking ring anti-clockwise until the arrow faces opposite the symbol of an open padlock and lift off the control unit. The control unit remains in the plant. Now we're going to use the 3 M8 hexagonal screws. Begin to loosen the flange screws. Some advice from our expert: remove 2 of the 4 screws and replace them by longer ones. Pay attention that the screws are properly screwed in. This will help to avoid an accident in case the process line is still pressurized. Screw the 3rd longer screw in the threaded hole of the flange and remove the other 2 flange screws. Jack out the valve insert by means of the jack screw. Remove the 2 longer screws now. The jack screw remains in the flange. Remove the valve insert from the valve housing. It is best to carry out the following work on a workbench in a workshop. As far as applicable, please remove the adapter for the control unit. For this, remove the air hoses from the actuator. Loosen the 4 Allen screws and remove the adapter. Now you should disassemble the valve insert in the following sequence. Loosen the self-locking nut at the lower valve shaft. Remove the lower valve shaft and place it carefully on the workbench. Turn the valve insert and remove the stop sleeve. Lift the valve insert and place it on the workbench. The guide rod will partly be pressed out. Remove the guide rod now. Loosen the upper stop nut and remove it as well as the lock washer. Now you can lift off the actuator unit. Pull the valve seat over the upper valve shaft. Holding the valve seat down with your fingers will help. Remove the seat ring now. The following pictures will demonstrate how to change the seals and gaskets. The following parts need to be replaced: O-ring on the guide rod, quad ring and PTFE driving band in the rinse chamber, upper and lower housing seal, upper shaft seal, upper and lower seat seal, middle seal, finally the O-ring in the lower valve shaft. Later, we're going to show you how to replace the lower shaft seal. The seal kit contains 2 small O-rings. The thicker one is for the guide rod. Remove the O-ring by means of a suitable tool, for example the tool for the lower shaft seal. Push the new O-ring over the guide rod and ensure it is well placed in the lining groove. Don't forget to apply some grease. Please use only the recommended grease which does come with the seal kit. Other grease may destroy the seals. For easy identification, all elastomer seals except the O-rings and PTFE seals are stamped with a part number. If needed, you can cross-check the part numbers on the seal and in the spare part list. Put the valve seat with the rinse chamber pointing downwards on the workbench. Remove carefully the upper and lower housing seal using a screwdriver or the tool for removing the lower shaft seal to prevent any damage of the lining groove. Press the pinpoint of the removing tool in the elastomer seal and pull it out. Remove the PTFE seal too. Now remove the quad ring and the guide tape from the rinse chamber of the valve seat. Remove the used seals to avoid mix-up with the new ones. Insert the guide tape in the outer lining groove of the rinse chamber. Slightly grease the quad ring and insert it in the inner lining groove. Control proper fit of the parts. Turn the valve seat upside down to insert the shaft seal. First, place the PTFE seal with the broad shoulder down into the lining groove. Press the elastomer seal with the broad shoulder, the printed shoulder, down in the gap between the PTFE seal and the valve seat. Please press only and avoid tearing the seal to avoid creating a loop. Apply a thin film of grease on the housing seals. Place the housing seal over the valve seat and position it. The housing seals are also symmetric to avoid worrying about the mounting orientation. Check the correct seating of the housing seals. Turn the valve seat between your fingers. Now replace the seat seals. Remove the two seat seals from the lining grooves of the seat ring. Grease the seat seals slightly. Seals without any grease or wrong grease may lead to unhygienic conditions or leaking valves. Stretch the seat seals lightly. Clip the seat seals into the lining groove of the seat ring. Check also the correct seating of the seat seal and, if required, push it in the correct position by means of your thumb. Remove the O-ring from the lower valve shaft now. Fix the lower valve shaft as shown in a vise with aluminium jaws. Please use only the recommended tool in order to avoid any damage of the lining groove. Once the lining groove is damaged, the lower valve shaft needs to be replaced to ensure the full functionality of the valve. Please only use the tool especially developed to insert the new middle seal. This is the only way to ensure a proper fit of the seal over the entire circumference of the lining groove. Insert the valve shaft in the tool and fix it in the vise. Grease the middle seal slightly and place it as shown on the ring. The seal is symmetric, hence you don't have to pay attention to the right mounting orientation. Place the ring with the vent nose down into the tool. Place the thrust ring in the groove and put the nut on and tighten it. Screw the nut firmly down to ensure the seal is completely over the entire circumference in the lining groove. Unscrew the nut and remove the shaft from the tool. Check the correct seating of the middle seal. Do not forget to insert the O-ring in the lower shaft. Now start to reassemble the components in reverse sequence. Start with pushing the seat ring over the valve shaft. The groove on the seat ring must point down. Push the valve seat over the valve shaft. Using your fingers, push the valve shaft upward. You can now place the actuator unit over the valve seat. Again, use your fingers to push the valve shaft upwards until you hear a click, confirming the seat ring is fixed. After that, you take the lock washer, set it in position and tighten the stop nut. The required torque is 40 Newton meters. We recommend using a torque wrench. Push the guide rod with the thread pointing down through the actuator unit. Fix the guide rod with the stop sleeve and tighten it with a torque of 15 Newton meters. After applying some grease on the guide rod, push the lower valve shaft over the guide rod and connect both by means of the self-locking nut. The required torque is 40 Newton meters. If applicable, install the adapter for the control unit. Hand screw the 4 Allen screws crosswise. Connect the air hoses as follows. Second air hose to top connection. First air hose to second connection, crossing the second air hose. The third air hose is connected with the third connection. Before you insert the valve insert, you have to replace the lower shaft seal at the bottom of the valve housing. Please use the tool for assembly and disassembly of the lower shaft seal, which has been developed especially for that purpose. Loosen the protection cap and push it upward. Press the tip of the needle into the elastomer seal and pull it out. Push the protection cap down and tighten it. Pull out the PTFE seal. Some advice from our expert. To avoid a mix-up of new and used seals, we recommend that you make the used ones unusable. You must pay special attention to the correct positioning of the PTFE as well as the elastomer seal. The broader shoulder of both must point down. For the elastomer seal, it is the printed surface. Take the elastomer seal and place it above the PTFE seal. By means of the tool, you have to press the elastomer seal in the lining groove between the PTFE seal and the valve body. Hold the tool absolutely perpendicular to avoid slipping of the elastomer seal. As soon as the elastomer seal is pressed in place, ride with the tool over the entire circumference of the elastomer seal and press it in the lining groove. Apply some grease on the lower valve shaft and insert the valve insert in the housing. The jacking screw left back in the flange serves as a stop to avoid any damage of the housing seal. It also makes it easier to align the insert with the threaded holes of the housing. Remove the jacking screw now and press the insert as much as possible down into the housing by means of your hands. Apply some grease on the screws to avoid galling. Tighten the screws crosswise. If applicable, place the control unit on the adapter and turn the locking ring clockwise until the closed padlock symbol faces opposite the arrow. Install the proximity switches. Remember, the marked one is installed in the lower bracket. Tighten the knurled screws by hand. We recommend operating the valve a few times to check for smooth transition of the valve shaft. Once the last tests have been successfully done, reset the pressure of the process line back as it was at the beginning of the operation. Well done!